Now, on Tuesday, the Democrats in the House Rules Committee held the first hearings on Medicare for All, which is an ambitious plan to cover every single man, woman, and child with health care, with government-sponsored health insurance that has no copays, no deductibles, no out-of-pocket costs whatsoever. Now, the first person to give testimony in this hearing was a man named Adi Barkan. Now, Barkan is basically someone who has been diagnosed with ALS. Now, he's diagnosed about 3 years ago and has lost his ability to speak. So when you listen to that video that's coming up here, he'll sound a lot like somebody else who was famous that had ALS, Stephen Hawking. Now, he gave his testimony, and I want you to listen to what he said about our current for-profit healthcare system. Take a look.
The ugly truth is this: healthcare is not treated as a human right in the United States of America. This fact is outrageous, and it is far past time that we change it. Say it loud for the people in the back: healthcare is a human right. For my family, although we have comparatively good private health insurance, ALS now means paying out of pocket for almost 24-hour home care. This costs us $9,000 every month. The alternative is for me to go on Medicare and move into a nursing home, away from my wife and my son. So we are cobbling together the money from friends and family and supporters all over the country. But this is an absurd way to run a healthcare system. GoFundMe is a terrible substitute for smart congressional action. Like so many others, Rachel and I have had to fight with our insurer, which has issued outrageous denials instead of covering the benefits we paid for. We have so little time left together, and yet our system forces us to waste it dealing with bills and bureaucracy. That is why I am here today, urging you to build a more rational, fair, efficient, and effective system. I am here today to urge you to enact Medicare for all.
All right, so that's Adi Barkan, and of course there's a lot more footage of him doing testimony, but I think that's really the basic that he touched on. GoFundMe, right? But first, of course, let me just give him a lot of credit, right? I think he's an inspiration. He came at great difficulty to argue for something that will not only help him, but also help every American. Now, on the point about GoFundMe is healthcare, well, there's a reason that he brings that up. Look, right now, there are too many people that end up having to go on GoFundMe to raise money for healthcare. Now, I'm not denigrating people who give, to other people, and it should never be misconstrued when I criticize GoFundMe as a healthcare plan as it's actually not supposed to be a healthcare plan. I'm not denigrating the people who give. They're wonderful people who, give what little they have to help people get healthcare. But that's not the system we should be on. In fact, here's the thing. According to the GoFundMe CEO, Rob Solomon, it was never meant to be a place where you could raise money for healthcare. In fact, he said, quote, "When we started in 2010, it wasn't purposely set up and built to be a substitute for medical insurance." Now, unfortunately, that's what we're doing, right? And another devastating fact about that is that 1 out of every 3 GoFundMe donations ends up going towards medical costs. Unfortunately, yes, it's not supposed to be, but that's what we're left with. Now, the question is why? Why are we the only country in the developed world that lets people die when they can't afford insurance? I mean, why are we the only country that forces people to literally beg for their lives? If it weren't for the kindness of people that give of themselves to some of these campaigns, so many more people would be impacted. So many more people would die from preventable things. And as much credit as I give to those people, unfortunately, there's just not enough to go around, right? There's not enough to meet the demand. There are people out there that have died because they just couldn't raise enough money to buy their insulin. Insulin. It's so expensive. And this is a barbaric system. So now the question, going back to it, why? Why? Well, the obvious answer is that health insurance companies, they want to continue their profits. These companies have to make a profit on healthcare, and they do so by denying coverage and charging outrageous premiums. We will never have truly universal healthcare in a system that prioritizes corporate profits. It's impossible. The system and the goal of universal healthcare is just not, it's not compatible. And that's the thing, right? Defenders of this current system, whenever we bring up, hey, we need Medicare for all, we need to do Medicare for all, and actually so we can have universal healthcare for everybody. And, they'll say, look, I understand, Jeff, and I agree that we need something, we need some sort of change, but, we just can't afford Medicare for all. Just can't do it. I mean, it's going to cost $32 trillion. I mean, how are you guys going to pay for it? I'd like to ask those same people, how can we continue to afford this system? That $32 trillion, that's over the next 10 years, $3.2 trillion a year. By the next 10 years, our current system, if we make no changes to it, will cost $50 trillion over 10 years. It's $5 trillion a year. $5 trillion is more than 3.2 trillion. That would mean that the system that we want, Medicare for all, is cheaper in the long run. How can we afford our current system? How are we going to pay for that? How are we going to pay for that? How are we going to afford $50 trillion over the next 10 years just to stay with what we have in a system that lets people die without health insurance? Medicare for all saves money. Medicare for all is Medicare for all is more affordable. Our system that we have now, that's the one that's unaffordable. How are we going to pay for that? How? There's never any answer to that. Never any answer. You know why? Because the people that say that are talking, basically are using industry talking points that have unfortunately they have internalized, that we can't have nice things. But we can. We can have healthcare for all. We can do it cheaper. Why is it that we can't do what Canada does, what the UK does, right? What a lot of these other countries do. You know that people in Canada pay half of what we do here. And they actually have better health outcomes than we do here in America. We have one of the worst healthcare systems compared to what we pay. We pay more than any other country. We should have the best healthcare in the world for that. But no, we actually don't. Our health outcomes are actually worse than a lot of other countries. Why is that? It's because health insurance profits are the most important things right now. And that is what defenders of this system are ultimately defending, where they can take your money, have a middleman that takes your money, skims it off the top, and then gives it to a doctor. That's our system. Middlemen that are only there to take money and deny care. No, we need to trash this system. It is garbage. We need actually to go to a Medicare for all system. Adi Barkan is right. The man is an inspiration. He's a hero, and he's spitting truth. And so I urge everybody to listen to him and support candidates who support a Medicare for all single-payer system. That is the only way we can fix healthcare. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.